Okay, so I played some video games this year, and I figured it's 9:58 and 55 seconds on the Pacific Coast right now, and so I figured why not make a video about them, just briefly. This is a very low production, low effort production here. The most effort that I'm going to put into this is putting up this sheet behind me, because I didn't want all the stuff that's behind me to be visible. um, so I picked out some games that I played this year that I thought were noteworthy. That doesn't mean they came out this year, just that I played them this year. Doesn't mean that they were the best games of the year or even my favorites, but I thought they were noteworthy. I did pick games that I had positive things to say about, though. Um, and these are also not in any particular order. This is not a top five. This is just five games that I thought were worth noting. The first, of course, being Metroid Dread. Longtime fans will know that I'm a big fan of the Metroid series and have continued to try to make content about it for many years, despite a relative lack of popularity. And Metroid Dread is the glorious return of the franchise, the first mainline entry since Other M, which is apparently even disputed on whether it's a mainline entry, the first numbered entry since 2002 with Metroid Fusion, and it's a really good game. It seems like this is a game that finally caught on with the mainstream in a way that Metroid hasn't before, and so I feel like it's kind of been talked to death a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's really good. It feels great to control. I think it hits just the right balance of difficulty where you kind of get your butt kicked on every boss until you learn the pattern, and then you can basically just annihilate them. And I had a particular moment where I was like, I feel like replaying the final boss of Metroid Dread. And so I did just one evening out of the blue, and finished the fight with full health. I took some hits, but I regained some health along the way. And it's just like, yeah, once you know it, it's so satisfying to play through, and it really rewards that pattern recognition without dragging on too long and being too finicky and precise with timing in a way that I think some like latter FromSoft titles often do. Um, and it's great to see Samus's story continue. I'm really excited to see where it goes after this, and I hope that it does continue in the near future. Really good game. Mercury Steam should credit all their developers who worked on the game because they don't do that apparently. Another game I played in 2021 was Hades. I know that this was the critical darling at the end of 2020, kind of in the same way I guess Inscription is for 2021. I didn't really get into it until this calendar year, and yeah, it's really good. It is the first roguelike that has really resonated with me. I put a decent number of hours into Binding of Isaac way back in the day, uh, but the writing is solid. It feels very good to play. There's sufficient variety on each playthrough. Um, I did feel like there was a hump to get over for me before the options kind of opened up. Um, but there was a certain point where I was like, oh, this is suddenly really jiving with me. And I just need to kind of get past that initial hurdle and open up some possibilities. Um, yeah, and I ended up getting 2 credits. I ended up uh, kind of getting the post credits story, um, and then I was done. And I had like, I don't know, 30, 40 hours in it. That's pretty damn good for a roguelike. Um, a lot of fun. A lot of my friends were also into it. Managed to turn some of my friends onto it as well. Um, really good. If you didn't check it out, it is a roguelike that is really supportive of people who have struggled with roguelikes historically, um, and is very accessible to people who may not have the same level of proficiency with video games. It's accessibility and difficulty options are pretty good, without just kind of going overboard. Kind of adapt to the level that you're at. Good game. Um, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight was an interesting game to play over the summer right before Metroid Dread, because Hollow Knight is sort of a interesting counterpoint to Metroid Dread. Hollow Knight, I know, is kind of a critical darling. Uh, there's been a Metroidvania renaissance in the indie sphere, and Hollow Knight, for a lot of people, I think, is a game that is maybe the gem of gems. Um, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't think it needed to be as hard as it was. I beat it. I think it could. I would have been fine if it were easier. I would have been perfectly happy if, rather than getting heart pieces, you just got heart containers, basically. Um, but it's a game with a very, despite being very open-ended past a certain point, it is a game that very much wanted to control the level of challenge that you experienced at all times. Um, because yeah, if you open yourself to extremely non-linear exploration, difficulty can get out of whack. If you can go to a lot of different places at once, then maybe an area that you intended to be challenging could be way too easy if someone explores everything else to first. And Hollow Knight avoids that by just making upgrades very, very incremental and just being very, very difficult in general. And I would have been fine if it weren't quite as difficult. Um, I didn't really get into the lore the way I know a lot of people did. Um, obviously the game takes some inspiration from Dark Souls because everything takes inspiration from Dark Souls. But whereas, I think my Dark Souls 2 series is kind of where I first started to really resonate with unpacking the lore as I was playing through item descriptions, and Hollow Knight doesn't really have that quite as much. Um, there are some descriptions, and there are NPCs that you encounter who have their own storylines over the course of the game, and there's cryptic stuff, and I just never really got into it. But still a good game. It's a counterpoint, like I said before I went on those tangents, to Metroid Dread. In that Metroid Dread, although it has some very deliberate sequence breaks put into it, Metroid Dread is a very, very guided experience. It has a lot of invisible hand holding that once you see it, you can't unsee. Whereas Hollow Knight is genuinely very, very open past a certain point. And you can watch Mark Brown's video about that if you're interested. Um, and they're both perfectly valid approaches. I did find I enjoyed Metroid Dread more for one, the difficulty tuning reasons, two, overall game feel, and three, um, I didn't like having to consult a guide to be like, wait, how do I access the abyss or whatever the thing was. Um, Still a good game, still a very good game, um, but a very different approach to the Metroidvania structure. I finally went back and did another route on Fire Emblem Three Houses. I had previously done the Silver Moon route, whatever that one is, which I'm starting to learn is apparently the worst one. um, and so I finished that and I was like, yeah, that was fine. But I didn't have the momentum to go through another playthrough until this past summer where I did the Blue Lions route, um, which I'm hearing from certain people that I trust is the best route. So I don't know if I'll go back and do another route after that. But what I appreciated about the Blue Lions route, one, I did it in hard mode, which I think was a good level of difficulty for me. I was never steamrolling things the way I kind of did at the end of normal mode. But I appreciated the storytelling of the Blue Lions route because it was so focused on one particular historical event and different characters' relationship to that event. It felt unified in a way that at least the Silver Moon, whatever route, didn't. I was like, cool. I'm learning about the ramifications of one very important event in all these people's lives and seeing all the ways that has affected them directly or indirectly. Um, and I thought it was very cohesive. Enjoyed it a lot. Um, still struggle with the brain goblins of trying to optimize but not getting hung up on optimizing too much. That's still a struggle for me. Um, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about that I played this year is actually 3 games. And because I need to talk about them all at once, basically. I got into the Trails series this year, which, if you are not familiar, is a fairly long running JRPG series, which is noteworthy in that it has consistent, ongoing storytelling from its first entry to currently, I believe, 9 or 10 entries. Um, and so unlike, say, Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or the Tales series, which is different from Trails, and I need to be careful what I say, um, it is an ongoing developing story with different entry points along the way, but it is not one like, oh yeah, play 7. 7's the best one. Can't do that. Um, and so I jumped on. If you're familiar with the series, this will make sense. If not, it won't. I jumped on with the 6th game, which is the first game in a new sub arc, um, because that's the one that my housemate got me for Christmas. And it took some momentum. It took some getting into. These are slow-paced games, and often the first entry in an arc is slow-paced as it sets up the new environment, a new world, new political situation, um, and uh, and so I kind of muddled, struggled, turned it off for a while, and it was just so much kind of reading that I didn't have the bandwidth for it when I was also doing my teaching, which is my job. But then over the summer, I got back into it. I got into Cold Steel is the one, Cold Steel 1. And towards the end of summer, I was like, oh wait, now that I have the time and mental energy to devote to it, this rules. Um, and so I said that Cold Steel is the 6th entry in the series. I went back, I bought the first arc, the trilogy, the Trails in the Sky series on Steam, started it, and then school started. And so put it down. And then over the past couple weeks of winter break, I blazed through first chapter of Trails in the Sky. I am in the second to last chapter of second chapter, um, and yeah, this is a game series that rewards patience and being willing to really be invested in long form storytelling. Um, and it also is a game series that you are there to see a very particular story unfold. This is not a series where you are making meaningful choices. This is a series where you are watching a story unfold and kind of ferrying characters from location to location so that that story can happen. Um, and if you're into that, I think there's a lot to really like here. Um, as someone who is not actually that experienced at JRPGs, hasn't played a lot of Dragon Quests or Tales or Final Fantasies, um, I don't have many points of comparison there, but I think it is a game that rewards investment, a series that rewards investment. Um, and I'm looking forward to making my way through the rest of the series over the next year or two, probably. Um, so those are some games that I played this year that I thought were noteworthy. Um, some other quick things. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond sure is a Pokemon game. I played through it and I enjoyed it because it's a Pokemon game. I replayed through Portal. Portal's still a good game. Ocarina of Time 3D, still a good game. Um, yeah, there are some games that I didn't quite get to this year, and we'll see if I get to them next year. My life is busy, and I only have so much time. Um, I hope that 2022 treats you all well, and make sure to be good to yourself.